Being a hero is dangerous enough. Being a hero with a super kid to look after, even more so. And being a hero with multiple kids, well, I really don't know how these heroes manage to keep their kids, themselves, and the whole world safe against global threats all at once. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. Today we're counting down the top 10 superheroes who have the most kids. Let's get into it. Number 10, The Punisher. Frank Castle doesn't have a ton of kids, but he does have at least 2. And across potential multiverse realities, I'm sure he has multiple because he has like 2 for each reality. I feel like his numbers are pretty finite there overall though. While he might have kids in alternate realities as well, Frank Castle losing his kids and his wife means that he likely will never really be able to settle down again and have kids again, as he struggles to let go and move on, but he also is probably terrified of potentially losing whatever new family he might get, and that's what kind of holds him back from doing that. The Punisher for this reason is a really tragic character when it comes to his family, but his kids, and more specifically the loss of his kids, are an important aspect of who he is as a character. Frank had a son and daughter in the main continuity. Their names were Frank Jr. and Lisa. Number 9, The Flash. Some may forget, but there was a time that even Wally West was settled down and happy with his wife and his kids. He had 2 children, and I cannot deny that I miss those happy family days, where his kids were just starting to get a handle on their powers. He and Linda's kids were Jay and Iris, and the 2 were twins. Both were connected to the Speed Force and had speed powers. Jay's speed powers mostly affected his overall strength, giving him bursts of super strength and energy that would often leave Jay feeling tired afterwards, so he did need some time to rest. Iris, it was believed, could have grown up to be even faster than Wally. Her powers were much more developed than her brothers. She had superhuman speed, stamina, and could use her connection to the Speed Force to heal, which granted her accelerated healing. Unfortunately, during DC's New 52 reset, the kids were seemingly erased throughout reality. They survived but became trapped in the dark multiverse. Wally himself wouldn't appear until Rebirth, but later on would rediscover the truth of his previous life from that earlier continuity. He ends up finding and saving his kids, but Linda still does not remember any of this, which makes returning to that normal happy family life pretty much impossible currently. I still miss it though. I still want it to come back and be a thing. And friends, before we move on to our next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more like it, be sure to show us that love by giving this video a thumbs up. Seriously, it really does help us out here, so thank you. Number 8, Hawkeye. Well, in the main continuity of Earth 616, Hawkeye is known more for being a bit of a mess and somewhat of a ladies' man who is very much unable to settle down. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe and in the reality of 1610, the Ultimate Universe, he is a family man through and through. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he and his wife Laura have 3 children together: Cooper, Nathaniel, and Lila. In the Ultimates Universe, he also has 3 children with his wife, also named Callum, Lewis, and Nicole. In the Old Man Logan universe of Earth 807128, he was married at least 3 times, and it was during his marriage to his 3rd wife, Tanya, the daughter of Spider-Man, that he had Ashley Barton, his daughter in this universe. Number 7, Invisible Woman. In the main continuity, Sue Storm has children with Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic. Together they have 2 children, Franklin and Valeria. However, Invisible Woman also has other children across the multiverse, and not all of them are even children she had with Mr. Fantastic. Oh ho ho. In some realities, Sue instead ends up with another suitor, Namor the Submariner. And some of these relationships result in offspring. There is Ariana, Johnny, Aaron, a few Leonards, and even a Valeria. In the ultimate reality, Sue ends up with Ben Grimm, and together they have a daughter after Ben's condition is cured and he can transform from his rock form to his human form at will. And then of course there is the deeply disturbing alternate daughter of Reed and Sue's from a what if story named Susie. Number 6, Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman doesn't have any children to speak of in the main continuity, but she does have kids across the multiverse, and has quite a few of them. Many of her children happen to be daughters who share their mother's strength and courage and fight on as warriors. Not all of them are still maintained as part of continuity, as DC has wiped away some of the alternate Earths that they hailed from originally. That's what happens every time we, pressing that reset button over at DC. Those who have been able to call themselves a child of Wonder Woman have included Hippolyta, Donna, Stephanie, Hunter, Lara, Etta, Vicky, Bruce, and John, just to name a few. Number 5, Charles Xavier. Professor X is a hero who you might not think of when you think of a ladies' man, but believe me, he kinda is. While Magneto is obviously the one of the two who is thought of as being more of a family man, oddly enough, it's kinda weird when you think of who Magneto is as a person, Charles actually has a few families of his own. In the main continuity alone, he has a few children, including Legion, Xandra Naramani, and Charles Xavier II. In an alternate reality, Charles Xavier II even grows up and ends up teaming up with his half-brother, Reyes. Yep, Professor X had a baby with Mystique, and what's more, although we see her impersonating Moira when she gives birth, he knew it was Mystique the whole time. And keep in mind that these three children are only the ones he has from that main continuity. Within the multiverse, Charles likely has tons and tons of children in addition to those mentioned here. Especially as we know there are tons of Charles across the multiverse. So many Charleses. Number 4. Spider-Man. Spider-Man is another hero who doesn't have any surviving children in the main continuity, but does have a ton across the multiverse from various alternate realities. On Earth 616, he and MJ did have a daughter together, at least I think their baby was a daughter, but MJ was made to believe the child was stillborn when Norman Osborn had the real surviving baby spirited away. Likely this baby would have been named May, or I guess if it was a boy, Ben, but I think it was meant to be a girl. I'm pretty sure about that. The baby in question would never return, and it's even been theorized that the real child of MJ and Peter was an actual stillborn baby, and the whole plot of Norman Osborn taking the child believed to be theirs was all just meant to stress out Spider-Man later on. It never really went anywhere, so we'll never really know what it was meant to do. Across the multiverse, Spider-Man's children include various May Parkers, Annie Parker, various Ben Parkers, the adopted clone of May named April, Claire Parker, Tanya Parker, and Richie Parker. There's a lot of Mays, and there's a lot of Bens. Number 3. Emma Frost. To Emma, many of the kids that she teaches are in a way like her own children. That's just how protective Emma Frost is of her students and her charges. She both expects much from them, but also is not about to let anyone mess with them. She's just a really passionate teacher and kind of a parental figure to a lot of people. But Emma also technically has daughters in the Stepford Cuckoos, who went from 5 to 4 to 3 in their numbers, but are back to the full 5 again with the resurrection protocols in place on Krakoa. The Stepford Cuckoos are Esme, Phoebe, Sophie, Mindy, and Celeste, and although there were at most 5 of them, they actually came from a much larger brood. While Emma Frost was in a coma, over 1,000 of her eggs were taken from her and used to try and create a mutant powerful enough to bring about a doomsday-like scenario. It was pretty crazy, and that's basically where the Stepford Cuckoos come from. Aside from all those lab-created offspring, Emma also has multiple children with Scott Summers, aka Cyclops, scattered across the multiverse. Number 2. Batman. One of the heroes who probably has the most kids around of all is Batman. Now, not all of his children are biologically his. In fact, most are not biologically his, but he still has tons of kids in general, and even if, they aren't his biological children, I feel like we should still count them. Let's see if we can even come close to listing all of them. Well, there's Damian Wayne, his son with Talia, then there are his Robins, who are kinda like adopted children of his to some extent, and include Damian Wayne, but also Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, Tim Drake, and Stephanie Brown. We also have the alternate reality Robin, who is still quite popular, Carrie Kelly, and then there are his alternate reality children as well from alternate futures or worlds in general. These include all the Helenas, which is typically the name he and Catwoman choose for their daughter, and to a lesser extent Terry McGinnis, who is not Bruce's son really, but he did have his DNA engineered by Amanda Waller to basically be a match for Batman. So he's not really his son, but he's also kind of his son. You know what I mean? People, I feel like, are gonna have a lot of opinions about me saying that all these people are Batman's children, but I don't know. Batman basically like adopts a lot of kids. That's most of his thing. It's pretty great though. I would totally join the Bat family and be trained to become some kind of Bat-themed superhero. Sounds awesome. Number 1. Wolverine. Wolverine has so many children. Even he likely does not know how many children he actually has. See, the problem with Wolverine, of course, is that his memories get a bit foggy when trauma is involved. And when isn't Wolverine living through some kind of trauma? His whole life is pretty much trauma. That's why he didn't really remember the kids who grew up to join Dawkins' mongrels and attempted to defeat him. It wasn't until after he'd killed them all that he kind of learned the team was composed of his own kids, who he'd forgotten due to the way his brain processes and heals traumatic experiences. Pretty tragic, really. Aside from the mongrels though, you also have Dakin or Akihiro, his son with Itsu, Emiko, his foster daughter, and of course his clone-based genetically engineered children, Laura and Gabby. Although Gabby, I guess, is a bit more complicated as she's really a clone of Laura, so she's not as directly connected to Wolverine. But still, she gets treated like his daughter a lot. And she often gets treated like Laura's younger sister as well by the whole Wolverine family. Wolverine then, of course, like many other heroes, has all of his children from across the multiverse, including the fan favorite Reyes, his son with Mystique. I gotta say, I kinda ship Mystique and Wolverine together. I think they're pretty fun, even though they're both kind of like always trying to kill each other. Is that weird that that's a thing that I'm like, I love that, that's great? Not in real life, just in comics though. What are some of your favorite heroes who happen to have children? Are there any superheroes who you'd like to see actually settle down permanently, have a family, and even maybe retire? And if so, who should take up their mantle once they are gone? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I am your host Amanda McKnight. Till next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube.